and thank you so much for checking out my YouTube channel. So this is a video that I kind of wanted to do quite a few months ago when I actually went to Japan. I went to Japan in November last year. It's now March. So that's almost 5 months ago. I have to say Japan was one of the best places I ever visited, but it is also one of the places that I found you had to kind of figure out quite a bit before you went. So that's why I wanted to put together this quick few tips on traveling Japan, and this video will definitely help if you're from Australia, because there's some tips here that will only really be relevant to Australians. Now I just want to let you guys know before we go any further, as usual, these are tips that I found would be useful if I had known this before I went to Japan. I have only been to Japan once. I am not an expert. I love Japan. I love everything about it, particularly how lovely the people are. So it is somewhere that I will go again, but I wanted to put this video together so that this could help anyone who is heading there for the first time, and like I said, particularly from Australia. Okay, tip number 1, exchange money before you go to Japan. Now, when we travel, and we travel a lot, we usually just bring Australian dollars with us and exchange the money once we're in that country to whatever currency it is. Now, when I was getting the Japan rail passes, which we'll go through in a second, I was told to exchange Australian money into Japanese yen before I arrived in Japan. I wasn't sure why, because that's not the way we usually do it, because you usually get a better exchange rate when you're actually in the country. We didn't take this advice, and we got to Japan and we did change the money in the airport, at Narita Airport, when we arrived, and we did find that the exchange rate was worse than it would have been if we just changed the money before we'd left Australia. So again, like I said, I think this tip may only be relevant to Australians. I can't speak for anywhere else, but if you're traveling from Australia to Japan, this is a big one. I would recommend that you exchange your money into yen before you leave Australia. That way it's going to be easier for you. I think there's not that many places to change money, and the exchange rate is much better if you do it from Australia. Number 2, like I mentioned, the Japan Rail Pass. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about was this little thing. The Japan Rail Pass is definitely the best way to get around Japan. Now, when we travel anywhere, we always usually just get a hire car or figure it out with local drivers and things like that. When we found out that train was the best way to get around Japan, I was pretty excited because we don't usually do that. I'm going to put a link up on the screen here which is the Australian site for Japan Rail Passes, and they'll go into this in a lot more detail than I will. But basically, you organise this little thing before you go. Now, there's a number of travel agencies in Australia that basically focus just on Japan, and they will do this for you. What you're doing is paying for a whole segment of time that you're actually in Japan for, and you basically get unlimited travel in that period of time that you've paid for on the Japan rail system. Now, this doesn't cover all of the Japan rail. Let me read this to you. It will cover you for unlimited travel in that time on all JR transportations. So that includes JR trains, Shinkansen bullet trains, except Nozomi and Mizuho service, limited express trains, and rapid or local trains. Okay, it also covers you for JR Bus Company local lines. JR Hokkaido Bus, JR Bus Tohoku, JR Bus Kanto, JR Tokyo Bus, West Japan JR Bus, Shugoku JR Bus, JR Kyushu Bus. That's a lot of buses. We didn't use any of the buses systems. We found that there was trains pretty much everywhere. We used a taxi a couple of times. I don't know if you have heard, but taxis in Japan can be a bit pricey, so it is recommended that you use the train system because it is so well set up and very affordable. Now, the JR Pass also actually covers the Miyajima Ferry and Tokyo Monorail, so that's pretty awesome. Like I said, we pretty much use the JR Pass for all the transport we use, except for taxis a couple of times and for the Tokyo subway system. Now, when using the JR Pass, you don't have to go through the normal ticketing machines set up. You will see a JR office where there's a JR line, and you simply show them your pass, this is the most important part, the part on the back, and you show them on the way through and the way out, and that's for train stations basically. Tip number 3. Still involving the JR Pass, you will not get this little setup when you actually go to get your JR Pass before you leave for Japan. You have to organize this before you leave for Japan. But what you'll get is like a form. So you'll go into these travel agencies, which I'll leave a link on the screen right now, and it's also in the description box to this video, closest to your area, or you can order them online through some of them. I went to HIS Travel Japan on the Gold Coast. They don't let you order over the phone, but that's okay. I popped into the office and I went in with mine and my boyfriend's passports, because you have to have the correct details that are on your passport onto the form that they give you, and you have to hold on to that form like money. If you lose that, it's considered cash. It disappears. It cannot be redeemed if you lose that. So once you arrive in Tokyo, I guess that's where you'd be flying to, or wherever the international airport is that you're arriving into. We arrived into Narita. We took our forms downstairs to where the train station is in Narita Airport. And there's actually a JR office there where you can take in your forms, and then they change it over. You fill out a little bit more information and they give you this. And this is what you need to hold on to travel around Japan for the period of time that you've paid for. So it's a lot of information to take in, but once you get your head around it, it's pretty simple. And you can tell that it's actually, just like the Japanese, very efficient and works really, really well. There's a lot of people there and it's quite crowded in some areas of Japan, but the JR Pass works really well. It's super efficient and fast. While we're in Narita doing our Japan Rail Pass, we also took the Narita Express into Tokyo. So that's just another little tip if you are flying into Narita. Tip number 4, are we up to 4? So this still sort of has to do with the JR Pass, but it's about the Shinkansens. The Shinkansen's a bullet train in Japan. I was super excited to go on a bullet train. And if you've seen my travel vlogs on Japan, which I'll leave links here and here and here, I don't know where, you'll see how excited I was about the bullet train. As I mentioned, the JR Pass does cover a majority of the Shinkansens in Japan. One thing they do recommend though is that you book your seat on your Shinkansen before you jump on the train. And this is what your ticket will look like. You can't book that via online, you have to do it via Japan Rail Pass office. Now another issue is the Japan Rail Pass is only for non-Japanese residents only. So it's a pretty good tourism initiative to get tourists traveling through the country easy and efficiently. One thing also about when you are doing a Japan Rail Pass, if you're only doing one segment of Japan, like if you're just doing the east or you're just doing the north, Hokkaido or something, you can actually buy just a pass for that area. That's definitely something else worth looking into if you know you're just going to a certain area of Japan for a certain amount of time. Again, really easy and efficient once you get your head around all the information. Tip number 5. Okay, now using a mobile phone while in Japan. Like I said, we travel heaps. So what we usually do is leave them unlocked, and if we're going to be in a certain country for a long period of time, we will buy a SIM in that area. Say if we'll be in America, because we're continuously going back there, we'll buy an American SIM, put it in the phone, hence we can use data, phone calls, all that sort of stuff. Japan I found a little bit trickier. I have read a few articles also that it is harder to get SIMs that work properly with our phones. I'm not sure if that's just because of Australian phones or something, I don't know. The one SIM that I did find that would work was ComSIM. Now we really just wanted the data and we were just basically, I was just going to put the SIM card in my boyfriend's phone and then tether to my phone when we needed to use internet, say for maps or directions or tips on where to go and where to eat and things like that when we didn't have wireless. So that was the main concern of having a SIM while we're away. We had a bit of trouble getting this started. We actually had to run around and ask a few people in Narita Airport when we first arrived, because we definitely wanted to exchange money, get the SIM going, and then organise our Japan Rail Passes before we headed into Tokyo. This was a little bit of an issue to get started. We finally did it, and I think all we really had to do was follow the prompts once the SIM's inserted into the phone, enter all our details. Don't think it really got working until we turned off the phone and restarted it. So that is something you may need to try if you do go with a ComSIM. Make sure you restart your phone to see if it's working. Maybe we're just a bit stupid. We bought the ComSIM card from HIS Japan Travel as well, where I ordered our forms for the Japan Rail Pass. So talk to them about organising a ComSIM if that's something that you're going to be doing. I think the data on this between the two of us lasted about 10 days, and that was us being wary about where we were using the data, so we didn't watch too many dog videos and stuff like that. Tip number 6, this isn't really about the technicalities of travel. Well, it is. It has has everything to do with travel. I always find whenever I'm traveling somewhere that's not an English speaking country is that I want to learn a few words. I feel really ignorant only knowing one language, but I really would advise to just learn a few words in Japanese, just some basic greetings and questions, not only because it's respectful to the people of Japan, it makes them happy that you're trying, and it also helps you in communicating when you need to figure things out, because not everyone in Japan can speak very good English. And particularly when you go out, say if you're leaving to certain different areas, regional areas of Japan, you may have trouble communicating if you don't learn a few pieces of language. I'll leave links to a couple of the YouTube videos that I actually watched before I left for Japan, and they are super basic greetings and Japanese sayings. So if I can do it, then you can do it. I hope these tips help you guys. Sorry if I rambled a little bit. If you have any further questions on any of these tips that I've given you guys, please leave a comment in the description box. If I've got any of this wrong and you want to correct me, go for it. But if you do like this video and you found it useful, make sure you give it a thumbs up, share it, leave a comment, and hit subscribe if you want to see more travel videos, and yeah, I guess more travel because it's all I seem to put videos up of. But more than anything, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that you enjoy visiting Japan.